Yeah.
Right, I guess I need to use this to work. I want to echo the acknowledgement that we are on unceded Coast land, and I'm going to try to make a few links between the notion of a sanctuary city and a movement and the work that we do with migrant workers. So first I'd like to just read you a few stories that we have gathered in our work, trying to paint a little bit of an image of what it is to be like a migrant worker in BC in particular. And I was playing with this before, so. These are actually, this is a little exercise that we play at other presentations, so they're a bit generic, they don't have names particularly. And they're all scenarios that we ask people to think about where could this happen for sure, where would you imagine that it's certain that this situation occurs. So one of them goes like this. Your employer sends you to clean a heavy machine, and when it accidentally gets turned on, it swallows your leg, and you barely survive. This one, you get an anonymous call explaining that your employer, who has agreed to transfer you to another job, has actually bought a plane ticket for you to go back to your country because he doesn't like you anymore. You don't believe it, thinking that your boss is nice, but would never do this to you. The next day, your boss drives you to the airport and threatens you to get on the plane or he will call the cops. This other one. You and 70 others live in barracks, with the windows and the roof covered with plastic tarps. The water from the tap is brown, and you have to wait in line to use the bathroom as there aren't enough for all of you. Every time you cook or eat, you need to check if the rats haven't gone through your stuff at night. I could go on and on and on. All of these actually have names to them. The first story happened in a place called Hoti Farm. It's a potato farm in Ladner. The other one about the anonymous call happened at a place called Ernie. It's in Richmond. And the last one about the rats and the tarps and the roof happened in a place called Sonder and Sons in Kelowna. These are stories that, like I said, we gathered through our work, and it's just a very quick look at what it is like to be a temporary worker working in farms in BC. And this is compounded by the thousands. There's thousands of workers that are coming to Canada to work just the farms, and there are hundreds of thousands of them that are coming to work in the restaurants, in the hotels, in our own homes as living caregivers. And somehow they are invisible. Somehow we don't see them, and somehow they're also disposable. If we don't need them, if they get injured or broken or too needy, they complain, they can go home, and then we get another one. This is the reality that they face. And us as in Spanish we say acompañando, accompaniment, like we are accompanying them in their struggle. And what we face is not only the incredible anger of facing this, we get pissed off a lot, and we fight with everybody, because it's just incredibly disheartening and stressful to see this, to see that this happens over and over and over. And us have to not only deal with this and sort of try to bridge it, we then hit a wall everywhere we go. Whether it be federal institutions like Service Canada, Canada Revenue, or more provincial institutions like WorkSafe BC, or even just members of the community that are somehow trying to participate, but in fact they're in some ways inability to try to tackle this head on, only in some ways prolongs the situation. So for example, many members of the community, whether they are from universities or churches or organizations or just individuals, might approach the workers and offer them a ride to go buy groceries, or organize a picnic or whatever. But then when they notice that the workers need more than this, that the workers are in need of somebody who is actually with them when they are fighting with their employer, or when they are fighting with a doctor who's trying to just sign him off as well after he has had an injury or an accident, they're not prepared to do this work. And so this is where a network of support needs to exist. These are some of the gaps that we're seeing in institutions that supposedly are ready to assist. Why? Because this is a federally regulated program. This is something that the federal government negotiates with other federal governments, like the government of Mexico or Guatemala or whatever. And supposedly they are thinking about this. They are designing a program. They are making legislation about it. But again, these workers seem to be invisible and disposable. No legislation, regulation, or official from any government has ever come out saying this has to stop and we're going to do it this and that way. So trying to make the link between this population, which is not a few hundred workers, like I said, these are hundreds of thousands of workers, to other populations that are in relatively similar conditions, like undocumented workers, refugees, people of color, and the poor generally, then there's a huge gap of the question, they are temporary, therefore they're not entitled, they don't belong here. And so they don't have access to anything that residents will. So what does a sanctuary policy look like when we are facing a very large population that is vulnerable by design? So let's make that clear. These people are by design vulnerable and exploitable. So the question of whether Vancouver can become a sanctuary city, I think is very valuable, and it's a discussion we need to have. But what does that actually look like? That is also something we need to discuss. What does it look like on the ground, and what does it take to get there? Because, just in a brief intro, the policies have been passed in Toronto are a victory for the people of Toronto and in general for the people of Canada. But are they transferable? Can we just import a model like that? And does it take policy or does it take community building and support? Because again, at the support center and other work we do, we always think that the work that we need to do is to stand shoulder to shoulder with, in this case, migrant workers or indigenous peoples in Oaxaca. Not lead them, so be ahead of them or behind them, just blindly following them. We need to be shoulder to shoulder. How do we get there? How do we get migrant workers, undocumented workers, refugees here sitting on the table with us or in the crowd? They cannot quite do it right now. Why? Because there isn't a space for us to support them. One of the big questions that I have about the sanctuary policies, it's great that service providers make an effort to be open to provide the services. But what happens when the big elephant in the room, the CBSA, comes out and grabs all the workers? Of course, the service providers might be willing to offer them support in jail, if they are jail workers. But what good is it once they are in a situation like this? How are we prepared or getting prepared to fight back? One of the ideas that we have is that we don't have to look too far into history or too far away. The United States has had a very long and rich history of fighting injustice like this. And there are many projects that have been built around these issues, whether it's in California, North Carolina, whatever it is. The notion of a project like La Red de Defensa Comunitaria, it's a network of communities defense or communitary defense or something like this. And this is a project that was born to basically provide this support, to be ready to assist and to also be ready to notify people. There are raids in the States all the time. ICE is all over the place. And people can sort of get word that this is happening. And so this network mobilizes right away. Well, first, notifying people don't go to work or they are around here or there, but also if there is problems, the network has the support to hopefully get people out of jail or get them to safety. So I wonder if we're thinking of these issues of how are we responding and building at the same time, because it's a challenge for sure. It's a big challenge, and maybe service providers offering their support is a big chunk of it, but then there's a huge other chunk of it that we need to take up in order to create that space. As we create this space, hopefully we are allowing refugees, migrant workers, indigenous peoples to sort of be in a better position to fight their struggle themselves. We're not going to save them by passing policies or whatever. We need to allow them to struggle and to have our support. So I think that would be sort of like one of the biggest questions around the issue of sanctuary. Is it the best step that we can make, or is it even the best first step that we can take, or what other steps are there that we can maybe do together? So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.